Chef Seis here, and I'm gonna make a very simple mushroom soup. And this time I'm gonna make it vegan, because someone was asking about it. But you can substitute with other things, but I'll get started right now, and we're gonna get started with our mushrooms. So this is just a white button, and use simple stuff like a white button mushroom, criminis I have here too. What's good about it is it gives maximum flavor. And I'll show you some other things that we're gonna do too. So when I slice mushrooms, just like make sure you're holding it, and make sure the tip of the knife is just here lined up with their tip. You can also check out some of my cutting videos on YouTube as well. And we're gonna show this again, and we go a little bit faster. And then here, like that, and then you go fast like that. So we're gonna take all these mushrooms, I'm gonna slice them up, and then we're gonna get started with our soup. I want to show everybody the ingredients that are gonna go into the soup, so we're gonna start with that first before I actually make it. So I've got some diced white onion, about a 1/4 cup, 1 large clove of garlic, some olive oil, a little bit of sherry vinegar. I think all soups and most food, all of it needs a little bit of acidity, kind of pick it up. This is some finishing tamari here, and then I've got some dried porcinis that I'm going to throw in. I chop these up a little bit and throw them into hot water to get them rehydrated, reconstituted again. I have some vegetable stock, which you can substitute for a chicken stock if you'd like. And I've got my pound of mushrooms that are sliced, and I'm just going to use a little bit of salt. So I'm going to get started right now, but there's the beginnings of the ingredients for the soup, and then I'll start cooking right now. I'm going to start sweating my onions first. I've got my pot here. I've got it on medium heat right now. The olive oil goes in. And I always start with the hot pan, and then we're going to add the onion. And once it gets going a little bit, I'm going to turn it down. So we're going to cook that till it's really soft, no color. We're going to start that first, and then we'll go through the other steps. Okay, so I've been sweating these onions really slowly for about 3 minutes. So they're nice and soft. You can take a look there. Now I'm going to add the garlic. So I just want to cook the garlic out a little bit so it's not so raw. So I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit, because right after that, I'm going to add the mushrooms in. So let me cook this garlic out for just a little bit, but you can smell it's getting nice and fragrant. Then I'm going to add these mushrooms. And it seems like a lot, but there's a lot of water in these, and we're gonna cook these out. So prior to me slicing them, I did wash and dry them, which is acceptable for these mushrooms because they do have some dirt on them. So I'm gonna turn the heat up a little bit. And make sure when you turn the heat up or something like this, you stir it. But once it comes up and the water starts releasing, you can turn the heat down. I'm also gonna add a pinch of salt. So I like to season as we go, and the salt will help start breaking the mushrooms down. So we're gonna let these cook for a little bit, so you can hear that sizzling. And then the water's gonna start releasing. But in the meantime, I'm gonna turn this down a little bit, and I'll show you what happens in a little bit. I have these mushrooms on medium-high heat, and as you can see, the water's starting to release from them. So this is an important step. We want a lot of the water to release out of these mushrooms to get a lot of the flavor. But from this stage, I'm actually gonna add those porcinis you saw me soak in the water, and we're gonna add that too there. I'm gonna put it up high just so it comes to a quick boil. And then I'm gonna shut the lid down and turn the heat down for a few minutes, and then we're gonna see what happens to the mushrooms after that. So I've had these cooking for about 3 minutes with the lid covered, and I stirred these on occasion just because I don't want them to stick to the bottom, and I also check the heat. So now they're on medium. We're gonna open that up and check that out. So as you see, the mushrooms are starting to get smaller and the liquid's starting to come out. It also was helped by the boost of the porcini water. Now I'm gonna add sherry vinegar, kind of like acid I was talking about. I like sherry. You can use another vinegar instead, but I like it because that kind of matches really well with the mushroom flavor. So I'm gonna let that cook out a little bit. Turn that back on to high, and it'll evaporate a little bit. I want to get some of that sharp acid taste out of there and cook it in the mushrooms. And then now I'm going to add my stock. So I made a vegetable stock, very simple. I took some of the onion and some carrots and a little bit of what I had in terms of vegetable to make a nice flavorful stock. That's about 5 cups. So now we're going to bring that to a boil and then turn that to a simmer. Cook it for a little more, season it with a little bit of the tamari and some more salt, and then we'll blend it out in a little bit. Okay, so I've been cooking this for about 18 minutes, kind of on medium-low heat. You can kind of see it bubbling here. I kind of had the lid ajar like that. I want it to evaporate a little bit so some of the moisture comes out of it and cooks it. I've also added the tamari there. So the main thing about when you're building soups and when they're starting to kind of evaporate the liquid is you want to add seasoning in increments. One of the things I always say to my cooks is you can always add more, but you can't take away. So that's meaning salt or vinegar. So we're gonna taste it too after we blend it. So now it's pretty hot, so we're gonna do a hand blender. If you like your soups a little bit smoother, you can always do them in a blender, but please be careful when it's very hot. I've seen many accidents happen where it just kind of splashes around, so always be careful. So I'm just gonna use a hand blender and blend this together. So I'm blending the soup right now with my hand blender. Like I said, I like it a little chunkier, so I'm gonna keep doing this. If you want your soups a little thicker, obviously you need to reduce it. So it's important what I said before. You don't want to add too much salt into it early because you can always finish at the end. So let me just finish this up and we'll taste it later. I blended this soup to where I wanted it and actually tasted it and add a little bit more salt to it. But here it is, and I'm just going to ladle it into this bowl so you can take a look. Like I said, it's got a nice, smooth, but not super smooth. It's got a little bit of chunks to it because I like that textural feel. And it's got a little balance of acid from the sherry vinegar and definitely enough seasoning from the salt and a little bit of the soy. And there you go, enjoy this completely vegan mushroom soup.